Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's XAUUSD webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. Tonight's webinar is a live Forex market review, so let's get into that. Before we do, if you could all read through the disclaimer. And for those on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see the chat, but you're more than welcome to watch or join us in the webinar. I've given you the link. For those in the webinar, I've got the Q&A box and chat box open. If you want to talk to me, just use either. So just take a moment or two to read through the disclaimer. All right, let's move along. All right, for those that are new to the webinars, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm a senior market strategist and trading mentor here at AUDJPY, and I'm a full-time Forex trader. Been trading in the Forex market almost 20 years, mentoring for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email is there on screen, duncan.cooper@acy.com. And you can connect with me through the week at our website. Go to acy.com, go to the market news tab, or at our YouTube channel at AUDJPY Australia. And if you want to connect with me personally, my Linktree link page is there. Just jot down the handle and head over there. If you want to get access to the chart layouts and templates I'm using in the webinars or in MT4, just contact Nathan Bray's email on screen. And for those in the webinars, put his details in the chat. Right, there we go. Right, let's get into what's happening today in the market. So first up, we'll have a look at the news items coming out for the day. Of course, yesterday we had the CPI data, which came in pretty much print, although the month-on-month core CPI did uptick slightly, and certainly the US dollar held its strength. This evening, two things to note, if not three. First of all, the Eurozone, 10:15 p.m. We have the main refinancing rate and monetary policy statement expecting a 60-point basis cut, if I'm reading that correctly. And then at 10:45, we have the Eurozone ECB press conference following that. So usually when we have this day, probably till at least from 10:15 to maybe an hour later, the market will be absorbing all that information. As well, at 10:30 p.m. from the US, we have core PPI month-on-month, PPI month-on-month, and unemployment claims. So it'd be interesting to see if these figures slightly uptick, like the core CPI. That would probably mean a little bit more dollar strength. So it's going to be volatile through that period. So be very aware. I'm not going to take a new trade until that passes, that window. All right, that's the main news left for the week at the moment. So be aware of that. All right, let's jump into the charts now. As I've been saying on the dollar index, we have a higher bottom. We almost have a higher top here. And from the monthly charts, this looks like a key area of support. Are we holding to maybe at least remain in a range? Key support. And resistance is, in this area up here. So are we going to be moving back up to the top of that area? All right. Of course, we could get some news that which means we break down, of course, but at the moment we're not seeing that. So we'll, starting to see a weekly chart reversal down here and the higher bottom, almost higher top forming here on the day. Now, we could still dip back down this week. We did dip down yesterday to the 79% of that range, but wouldn't surprise me to see some kind of further move up, wherever that might go to. And then you want to look for the next dip retracement for another higher bottom to form. So we might see a little bit more upward movement than we do. Do we see a normal corrective measure? Like so, back up that way. That's what I'm anticipating at the moment. Now we could have many days up before we have a dip. We are quite low down within the range here at the moment, so we'll have to wait and see. Now the S&P 500 As on the weekly chart, this is the daily look, but on the weekly chart, we have a lower bottom, lower top. So there is the question of, are we actually topping out up here? We'll have to wait and see. At the moment, as we move to the day chart, we have moved to a lower bottom. We're coming up to about a 62% retracement here at the moment into the 62.79% area. So we'll certainly watch this area. If we get a close back below this area of old support, 55.44, we may well see a lower top form in this area. So seeing a rejection up here over the next couple of days may signal a lower top forming on the S&P 500 to see maybe, we move down, we rally into this area here to further move back down the range. If we trade above this top here, that's going to change things most definitely back to up. But of course, it's very difficult in this area up here. I'll just draw it in. It's very difficult to be a buyer up here because you're at the all-time high areas. This area is, potentially going to see selling pressure in here because we're at the all-time high. And, if I wanted to get long, I'd want to get long on some kind of dip, not in the most expensive part of the stock market ever. All right. Right, so Eurodollar today, any euro cross today is a bit dangerous until past the news. Day chart, first of all. But we'll go to the weekly chart. We're just hanging around this old weekly area of resistance over here, 110.17. And as I've been saying, weekly trend is up. So that's been the impulsive move up here. This is corrected down at the moment until we take out this low down here. And that 110.17 level is that weekly high over here, but I'm just going to alter that line because the market may be referencing more recent support and resistance. So there's an area here, 1026 is being resistance at the moment. So any rally today is getting met there. And we're kind of getting support coming in from this high here at 110.08, approximately 110. So the market's just stuck between those two levels at the moment, so it's worth having those in. Next major level of support is this weekly high over here at 109.81. And as I said on Tuesday, I am anticipating we're going to be moving back into this weekly area, this weekly fib zone of 62 to 79%. And we could come into this imbalance down here, which ties in with the 79%. So I'm anticipating over time that we're going to be moving into this area. And then what do we bottom out here to have another long-term leg up this way? Or are we going to see it, if we break this low down here, we'll see a shift of trend on the weekly chart. All right, so let's just drop down to the 4 hour. It's in a downtrend, heavy sell-off yesterday after having, go back to the daily once more. We actually had half a day up and then the rest of the day was down. Today, we're just headbutting resistance up here. So I'm anticipating a day down today, potentially in line with the daily chart downtrend and the failed rally yesterday. This is going to do much until the Eurozone interest rate decision, so it's very difficult. If you're not already in, and ideally you'd want to be in higher up to hold your position, it's very difficult to trade right now. But later in the day, with that very strong drop yesterday, whilst we're being held, you can see at the 110.26 level, you can see it here. And then we haven't got there yet today. We've only been holding at the central pivot point. Depending on the news and the volatility later in the day, we could come up to fill the imbalance of the drop yesterday before wanting to move lower. So this imbalance here getting filled is the 79% level at 110.43 and 104.7 resistance up here, 110.47 resistance. If we were to come up to here today on volatility when the news occurs, one of two things is going to happen when the news gets released for the interest rate decision. We're either going to move up quickly or we're going to drop quickly. And if you're looking for a short and we drop quickly, you're just not going to be able to get in. So the best thing to do is have a game plan for if we have a bit of a spike up, and then can you see the opportunity to sell in line with the the trend that we've been seeing, which is down over the last 2 to 3 weeks. Right, so at the moment it's just bound between a little bit short of 110.26 at the moment. You can see there twice in New York we held there, so we may only just spike above 110.26 today and then hold, and one of them move down. So the big question is going to be today, can we break below 110 clearly, keep that downtrend maybe moving downwards? And over the next maybe 48 hours, if we break 110, watch for 110 to become resistance. Watch 110 to 110.08 to become resistance if we have a clear break to the downside. Euro yen just had 2, 4, 5, 6. That run down 7 days. We're having a day up at the moment. Be interesting to see what happens at this area of hold support here today at 158.07, tying up with the 79% level. So just moving to the 4-hour. This range here, I would watch that the new 79% level just put in overlaps with the old one. So this area here, so it's around about the 157 level up to 158 level up to 158.07. Do we rally into there today? Hold. Can you start to see a setup maybe to continue the movement down? Euro pound, it's not great at the moment, but we are moving up, consolidating, moving up. Currently, I would look to the 4-hour range, which is now there, for a further move up. Do we see a pullback to 62.79% area? We've almost got to 62 on the last candle, but does this area offer support? To continue at the range at the moment. Okay. I had another pair to look at. I wouldn't look at this pair at the moment. It's very range bound. I would pick a different pair, but that's what's happening on that pair at the moment. Potentially it's just holding its uptrend on the 4-hour, moving back up the range from support. All right, getting into the pound. Pound's coming into this imbalance area at the moment. Just from the weekly chart, we are in an uptrend on the weekly, down on the daily. Are we going to be just maybe pulling back to the 62% area of the weekly range to maybe find supports to move back up? So showing you that fib range on the daily. Are we going to be moving down? So this weekly high here, we're just sticking at, but we had a half a day up and then down for the rest of the day yesterday. Are we going to be moving down to fill this imbalance into this area of support, which is a weekly high over here and a 62 level? So can we move down to challenge the 128.94 level? So about the 12900 level, can we move down into that area through the month? And does that area offer support? So at the moment, you can see here we've had sell-off back below weekly resistance areas, rally, sell-off to there. Then we had a little blip up yesterday, and now are we coming down like so. All right, for our chart, spot of an imbalance, just a very minor imbalance in that area just there. So we may come up today when the news comes out from the US. last week's lows here. So a great area to look at would be last week's low and the 79% level at 130.87 if we can rally. To the 15, spending a lot of time around the central pivot point and the high formed here in New York. This is looking a little bit like it might be holding here at the moment as we wait for the news, but there's an imbalance up here still. 79% level up here at last week's low. That catches my eye. If we could rally back up today, I would look at 130.87. All right, assuming we can get up there, we could even spike up to 131. You can see over the last 2 trading days, holding here at 131, try to move above and then couldn't. All this price action through here was just underneath 131. So getting back up to 131 or support is definitely where the sellers are. So just in a difficult area with this 130.44 level. That 130.44 level is this weekly high here. So don't want to be selling into that because it could be support in the short term to move back up to the 79% level. So I would just be sitting on my hands waiting to see if it can come up here. Kind of short it up here. As price moves down, get your risk out. And then can we break and commit below 130.44? Now, other things that can happen today is we could decide to have a clear shift. We might see a clear break below here today and then a rally back up to 130.44 to be resistance. To a once more test 130. So at the moment, it's just not wanting to commit below support, not showing really any bullish nature though. Nothing that I don't really want to get long because we're in a declining phase on the daily chart, creating that retracement on the weekly chart. So at the moment, I don't feel like that has run out yet. So I don't want to be buying. I think we're moving down to the 62% level in general terms. So I want to look for an opportunity to sell. Okay. Pound yen, downtrend on the day chart, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 days down, 1 day up. It's coming up to 186.75, which is this high from the monthly chart. Is that level wanting to be resistance now? Broken support being resistance here. Weekly lower top formed, day charts down. Maybe these yen pairs, all they can manage is 1 day up. So I would watch 186.75 today. Does that get tested and hold? 4-hour range, 62 levels at 186.41, 186.75 is that resistance level. And just above the 79% level. So that whole area there is well worth watching. This area could be resistance here on the 4-hour too, 186.51. So we have actually traded into there already today. 15-minute chart. I'd wait for the news to come out, but if we do manage to come back up again, if it comes up here and starts to fail once more, can you see you're set up to sell, to trade down? All right, Aussie yen. Day trends down. Just having a day up. Not got any real reference here for resistance on the day chart. Be great if we just could get a nice rally up into the fib zone of 62.79%, but it's a long way away from there at the moment. And I know on the 4-hour chart, so it would be great if we could rally back up to resistance 62.79% area here. To trade down, we can watch for that to occur over the next few trading days and look to sell the rally. But at the moment, whilst we're having a 1 day up, on the 4-hour charts, we are stopping at these tops here. So you could be watching this area today. Do we revisit or get very close? 95.70. Look up to 95.51 to 95.70. We're going to get maybe a bit of a rally back up here when the news comes out. 79% level up to one small resistance to be moving back down the range. All right, Aussie's been moving up today, so we're having one day move up, and yen pair's moving up one day, Aussie's moving up one day here at the moment. It's just moved back up to resistance. Maybe a pip short at 66.97. So I did say on Tuesday, what, 66.97 up to these two weekly highs, all the way up to 67.40. Now we might get up there later in the day, and the 62% level overlaps there. So at the moment, this day downtrend, which has been starting to establish itself, trading down, those are pretty much kind of two equal swings. Are we going to get to the 62 level or not to continue that kind of price action? So later in the day when the news comes out, I will watch to see if we can spike up. All right, so the zone that I've been watching is pretty much the same as on Tuesday. In a perfect world, we've got 62 level there, overlapping with weekly resistance at 67.14. So pretty much 66.97 up to 67.14. Can we come into this area? Fail for the next move down. All right, next key level of support's down here at 65.75. So do we come up, fail, move down? Bit of an imbalance here that maybe needs to be filled, and just getting up to there will do that job. So keep watching, see whether that can occur. New Zealand yen, just one day up at the moment. 88.16 is a monthly high that we're below now. Is that going to be resistance to continue down this monthly range? Whilst we're having a one day up on the 4-hour chart, I'm pretty sure it's just a 4-hour range that we're forming here, which it is. Double top, down. It's already hit the 79% level and turned over. So if it can revisit later in the day, 87.95, that would be a great area to look to sell. Sell. Stops above here. Targeting 127, or you could hold the trade to try and target last month's low if you wanted to. All right. New Zealand dollar. Very consolidatory. It's not being able to have a move up quite as aggressively as the Aussie dollar today. In fact, I'm not even sure it's just had a day up, only just. Maybe it's doing what the euro dollar and the pound dollar did yesterday, is it has a day up and a day down in the same day. So this daily area here is now acting as resistance. For our chart, and that area notably as well is last week's low. So once we've moved below last week's low at the moment, we keep coming up to hit last week's low, and we're holding there. So that is really the level to watch, 61.53 to 61.55 here. Now, the volatility in the news could see a much higher level reached, which would be great to see. 62.14 to 21. Resistance levels from the day chart. and the 79% level of that range there. And we feel that imbalance formed last Friday. So can it have a high rally, or is it simply holding at 61.53 there? Just want to move to the 15. You can see lots of price action highs here on the 50-minute charts, starting to be resistance up there at 61.53. So might not be able to get higher than that. And today, with that drop down just here, use that range, you're going to have a 79% level just underneath 61.53. So that would be the level to watch if we don't get a massive rally after the news, because it could just come up to there to further decline. Or do we get extreme volatility on the US news and do we come up to the higher level? Dollar Canadian. So I'm anticipating we're moving back up this range at the moment. This is the day chart. We're forming an uptrend here on the daily. It's just struggling at this area of resistance at the moment. And yes, I mean, that could be a total failure area to continue way back down the range. However, at the moment, we do have an uptrend here. So I would be monitoring for, if we can pull back, monitor the 62.79% area here for supports and look for your setup trade up from that area. All right, to continue the movement back up this range. There's an imbalance in here that may need to be filled. And we may be coming all the way back up this way because the monthly trend is up. And we've had a 62% retracement of the monthly range here. So I'm anticipating that we could continue the uptrend there. So what I'm showing you here is what I would show you on the dollar franc. This is my 4-hour chart, but I was saying on Tuesday, watch for this to come into the 62.79% area, which it did. Got further support once more at the weekly support over here. And we're just coming up to the next resistance level. Just want to get these things off. So weekly charts, this weekly low is offering support, good support. Can we move above this area? If we move above this area, 85.52, we're probably coming up to the next area, 87.29. And yes, a day ago would have been a better time to look for your trade on top of support. All right, so we had an outside day. So we actually have a higher bottom here with the outside day. Even if we fail at 85.52, I'll draw a fib from that low up across that range. I'll look at that on the 4-hour chart. So keep dragging the fib up if price keeps moving up, but look for the next dip. So as I showed you before, we're at a 62.79% dip here. It's actually a 62 dip. So we're already at the 127 extension, so expect the next retracement to occur first of all. Watch the 62.79% area for support. Price keeps moving up, keep dragging your fib up. All right, do we come into that area again to continue up? Dollar yen. It's looking, on the 4-hour chart, it's looking exactly like the other yen pairs, coming up to 79% retracement of the 4-hour range. The big question is, we'll get to the day chart in a moment, but there's all these tops here. Are we going to break above these tops, or is that trend line across those tops going to hold this market to turn over today, the 79% area, to further decline? A problem with this pair particularly is we are at support down here. It's actually a monthly chart. There's the monthly low swing point. So we haven't been able to break it. We could almost double bottom here. It's not quite equal bottoms, but this could be a double bottom to move all the way back up. Weekly charts slightly positive. This weekly low here is being rejected. And the day chart did show you a very heavy reversal yesterday. Day chart trend is still lower top bottom. But if we start to see a higher bottom form in the day chart, that's going to be suggestive of support coming in and movement back up the range. Of course, next Friday, not tomorrow, but a week on Friday, we have the BOJ data coming out. So the question is, are we going to break through monthly support? Or are we holding here? Just seeing, if we start to see a clear 4-hour uptrend, that may be enough of a signal to start to look for a long. At the moment, we don't have that because we've moved down, up. We could simply continue to hold the form. So we really need to see at least a higher bottom form to give us some kind of idea that maybe an uptrend is starting to form there on supports, which we don't have. I'd be more keener to look for a buy down for this area than a sell, because I don't like to sell in support. And at support, we'll often hold and reverse all the way back up. So you could actually draw a fib, even though the 4-hour trend is down because it's lower top to bottom. You could draw a fib this way. We keep moving up, draw your fib, and then you might see that 62 or 79% level overlaps with support down here, and we could see some kind of movement up, pull back. And if we start to reverse back up, if we retest this area once more, we could start to see maybe a little left shoulder, head, right shoulder. If that starts to come to fruition, then maybe it's time to start to look for a long on the dollar yen. At the moment, it's just bouncing off support. Is it going to hold its downward structure? All right. At the moment, I think structure is still down. But if you're going to sell, you want to sell as high up as you can within this downward structure, so you can manage it for retesting support. So 79% levels at 143.06. So that would, if you want to get short, selling at this level, if it gets touched today, just missed it at the moment. Stop above here, looking for a break down below. All right. Let's look at gold. Not great at the moment, gold. It's holding its uptrend of sorts. Long-term trends up, it's rather sideways here. Maybe there's a higher bottom forming in here. But can we move through these highs? So it's getting a little bit range bound. As I said on Tuesday, I wouldn't trade this personally because it's just sideways at the all-time high. But if it's the only thing you can trade, look to buy a dip. This is the support area. These lows here. These highs to the left. So still 24.83 down to 24.77 is support. If you're looking for a short, resistance is here. Quite clearly. Look up here to short, but that would be going against the major trend. So I would much prefer to be a buyer because that's the overall trend. So price action, if you're prepared to sell, if price action comes up here, this is the sell level, trade back down support, and this is the buy level here, area, to trade back up in this range. Okay. All right, I just want to hop back into the euro dollar. Now, let's just tell you a few things off. I did say, when we had the NFP last week, we're very much news bound on a lot of these pairs, and price sometimes gets to the critical areas. So before I sign off tonight, price often gets to the critical areas within the volatility of the news. So last week, I was discussing Thursday some form of rally back up to weekly resistance up here. And that's where it went in non-farm payroll, just short of the 79% level. Before, of course, we've been moving down. Price action isn't as nice right now where it is. For a high rally, it may just rally within the range of yesterday. So, range of yesterday, we'll move it to the 4-hour chart, but it's just here. I'll just take that off and just say, we're trading at 10.16. The 79% level here is at 10.98. That's only 83 pips away. All right. We can definitely get back up to 110.98 today. 110.95 is an old weekly top over here back in early 2023. All right. So whilst we may only trade within the range of yesterday, the news volatility, we could get back up further up the range. So 110.95 up to 111. Be prepared. If price was to rally back up to there today, that would be great. You could have a fib drawn across that whole area. Let's move to the 4-hour. And you have an overlapping 62% level with the bigger 79% level and your weekly resistance area just in here. And it gets you back into this kind of area here where we have a bit of an imbalance. So whilst we're low down, we could, within the first 30 minutes of the news, be all the way back up to 110.95, the 111 area. All right. So be prepared for later on, because where we are right now, if we do get a relief rally, up at 111, approximate area could be a great area to look at today. If we don't, just watch within the range of today. We're expecting 60 basis point cut. Don't know why it's not going to be 50. Why they're saying 60 rather than 50. But in any event, sometimes the interest rate decision doesn't do a lot. So we may just come back up within the range. So get a plan for later. This imbalance may need to be filled. 79% level within this range is there. 1043. As I said before, you could watch 1043 to 1047. 79% fib and closest resistance level. That would be where I would watch if we only get a mild rally. If we get a much higher rally, I would watch up at the 111 level, okay? At the moment though, in today's price action, we're just holding at the central pivot point. So that in general terms is just saying that price action is fairly wanting to hold to the downside. And seeing a similar sort of thing on the pound. It's just fraction above the central pivot point, not wanting to break the weekly high support at the moment at 130.44. All right, so have your levels in. When we get to the Eurozone interest rate decision and also the US PPI data, watch where the high levels are, because we could certainly touch them today like we did in NFP. And if NFP was actually a great rally day to get short leading into this week. But of course, we can't go back in time if you weren't set for the high levels last week. But we may touch some high levels this week and you could get set for another week down next week. All right, so do a bit of work on your charts and then just see what happens when the news time comes around later in the day. All right, everybody, I'm going to leave it at that for this evening. If you want to join me next week, then I've got more analysis coming from the 17th, Tuesday. And then getting back into the beginning webinar series of understanding candlesticks and charting on Wednesday, and then more analysis again on Thursday. All right, so there's no questions. I'll wrap it up there and look forward to seeing you next time. Just give you a minute or two and then we'll call it an evening. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody, I've got no questions coming in, so I will just say thanks very much for attending and look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.